Hey everybody, it's Synth Designer back again with another video. Today we are continuing our proof of work series. This is video number 4. If you are new to this series or to the channel, I am going through the entire process of creating songs in this proof of work series to just show my entire thought process behind song creation and kind of a counter to AI, which is all about those instant prompts and instant results. This is all about the entire process. So in the first 3 videos, we got basically here, as you could see, we have some chords, a drone, a sub, a top bass, and then we got some drums started. Of course, none of these are complete. I am always in the process of mixing and tweaking, and this next session is going to be more of that, really. I know I have a lot to do with the drums, and I'm going to work on this transition, and I'm really focusing on the transition from this intro section to what would be kind of this verse section. There's not going to be any vocals or anything, and this is a chill synth song, so I won't worry about putting in place vocals or anything like that, but there will be kind of like a melody and then an ARP later on. The thing is, I don't know exactly where I'll get with everything, but I hoped for sure to improve the drums. I might tweak as well some of these chords in the drone. Not that I'm going to be tweaking the actual chords themselves, but the kind of the filter and as well some of the spacing. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to head with all this. As always, it's just about having a kind of a general plan, which I said was tweaking these drums and this transition, and then we'll see from there. I know what I'm basing the song off of, and if you've seen, it's Celeste by Crocia, and I'm going to be continuing that. So let's just play and see where we are. Okay, so you got the general idea. I just wanted to play it back for my own reference. I think it's important to always keep track of where you are and kind of summarize where you got, so that your new session is kind of just a reminder, right? It's a good way to refresh yourself. So I think today I'm going to start with this transition. This transition is pretty weak, and I'm going to look for more sounds. I put it there because that's where I wanted it, but I knew for a fact that it would need to be changed up. So I'm going to think about, well, first I'm going to just delete these. I'm really not happy with them, so there's no point. Actually, this is not it. So these are the sounds here and here. So let's delete those. And then I was kind of looking around at some point. I was thinking about this one, so I'm going to just drag this in here. And for sure I'll need to filter this out a little bit, but I'm wondering if this will work a little bit better, and if not, I'll look for something else. First, I am going to look at putting it into a mixer here. So let's go back to 9, drop into verse, sure. And then I'll just raise up this, and then I definitely want it filtered out, so let's just hear how it sounds. Actually, that's a lot better already. The only thing is I would prefer this to have a little bit less of those upper end even. So let's... And I'm definitely going to take out some of these lows too. I don't need any sub information on a riser. And I'm also going to put kickstart 2 on this. Not on full mix, but I do want that kind of pumping effect to come into play. And that's actually another item I'm going to be working on, is my top bass and adding kickstart to it as well to establish a groove. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that now. I'm going to maybe just turn this down just a touch. I can alter this later. I'm going to take this off so it doesn't throw me off later. And then if I take the name off, there we go. Okay, so we have that set up already, which is great. Good start. The thing I want to really establish is that groove, and with the chill synth pump, there's already the pump going on with this sub bass, but I want to try with this top bass as well. So I'm going to just add a track to this one, and then that way we can keep track of our filters and any automation underneath the instrument that you want. So for this top bass, I got pattern 4, which is, what is in my mixer? Top bass. So I am going to add kickstart as well to this. And we can play around with these side chains as well, but I definitely want a quarter note, and I'm going to stick with the 100 mix for now, and then we can adjust as we go. But we want a lot of pump. That is kind of a classic trait of chill synth, and it'll make more room for the kick and everything, and it'll just sound more chill synthy, I guess. So one thing is I'm going to automate the amount here. So you could automate this if you want, but right here you have this value, which is native to FL Studio. So I'm just going to do that. Move it down here. It perfectly starts here. So I can actually play around with it if I want to, but I have it 100, so that's good. Just what I want for now. No, I don't, because that starts right with FL Studio. That's one of those strange quirks that if you start it at 100% after, it's still gonna kick in before, which I don't like. If any of you has a suggestion or a way of bypassing that, let me know, because it's a very annoying trait I find. I am going to start it at 0. Move it to 0. Here, and then 100 here. So as soon as it kicks in, here is the ideal spot. And I'm wondering how much of this filter I want to open. Nope. Feel about this one. Kind of like this high chain. That almost eliminates the first 2 notes, which is interesting too. totally different groove there because we were only really hearing the first or the last two notes of those last two 16th notes. We could do kind of a hybrid here. Okay, that's interesting. So we kind of got this kind of hybrid groove here. So we're not just eliminating that first note. With this pattern, we are eliminating essentially 1.5 notes. You could hear just if I play the pattern on its own. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder how it will work with a hi-hat. I'm going to go back and listen to the song real quick. So there's that groove as well with a hi-hat in that song. So I'm actually going to go to my drums and establish some groove with some hi-hats. And then we can fiddle with the bass as well. This is all about the groove in this part of the song. Obviously, this is going to pretty much be it for the main drums for the song, so I kind of want to get this pinpointed right. So we got pattern 5 here. We obviously want a very short hi-hat. And we might have to play around with it just to see what fits in best. I don't know for sure just off the top of my head how it would sound. So we got hi-hat. I'm going to turn this down because no matter what, I'll want to turn it down. And let's go back to the pattern. This kind of has this kind of similar feel to it that I have with the bass. And I might want to change the bass after I hear the drum pattern. So I'm gonna play around and see what works. I kind of like the doubles here. I don't know what to call it, but I'll try with this. Very simple, but like chill synth drums tend to be simple. Let's just hear how this sounds in context. It's definitely too loud. And I think I'll try to take off some of these highs again. You know how I like taking off some of these highs in chill synth. I kind of want something a little bit warmer, maybe. Just have so many hi-hats. This is kind of thick. It's going to definitely be a different vibe, so let's try that. Not loving that, so let's just hear the pattern. I think all of us, we must all have tons and tons of these hi-hats that we just go through constantly. And do I remember any of them? No. I think that's the one. Why I feel like it's better on the left side than right, I don't know, but it feels better to me. Okay, so I'm just gonna loop this section here so we can keep going, and then see what works better, this one or the one that we just had. So right now the bass and the hi-hat are kind of working in tandem. I'm gonna see how they work differently. So it's got a different feel in both ways. Let's just compare the two. This is a tough decision. I mean, I kind of like them both. Okay, this is definitely, I think, the pattern I want. We've kind of got a complementary groove going with both of these. Just gonna make sure this is the one I really want, this hi-hat. This one now too. I'm just making sure I'm cutting off all the lows because there's no need for that at all. It takes up unnecessary headroom. Okay, so I think we established a decent groove here. It's kind of a basic, 4 on the floor, kick drum with a snare and just a very basic hi-hat, but it's definitely got some sort of groove to it. And that bass coming in, the kickstart on full basically, or well, close to full. And it's got a definite groove all of a sudden. So let's just come in from here again to just kind of put in the context. Muffle that snare even more. Let's see if I should muffle this even more. Well, we definitely got a groove going now. And one thing I want to go back to those chords real quick is maybe even make them a little bit narrower. Or yes, the chords. The chords is what I want. So I'm going to go over to Serum. I had previously changed up the width here, but this one I didn't change up. I kind of want to see how this makes a big difference, having that as much more narrow sound. You could hear the difference here. Kind of got more of that chill synth vibe, that kind of narrow chord that you sometimes hear. But I also want to make sure I'm not eliminating too much of the space. So what I'm doing here is really trying to get more of the atmosphere down. I have the chords, I have the right instruments. Now it's establishing the atmosphere, and that always to me is a work in progress. I don't feel like atmosphere is the easiest thing to establish. It's not like, it clicks in. When you add other instruments constantly, I feel like that's a good time to really think about the atmosphere you want to establish. And make tweaks along the way. And right now that I took this first pattern down to a much more narrower sound, I have a lot more room to kind of explore with everything else. And I have to make my decision. I don't have to stick with it, obviously, but I need to decide how wide I want it. I don't want them too narrow, but I don't want them super wide either. So it's gotta be kind of a happy balance here. I'm just going to go back and listen to the song and kind of start to think about how the atmosphere works in that song. So those chords really stand out in his song. And I want to start to think about a little bit how my chords, how I could get them to stand out. And I have to think about whether I want to keep them that narrow or not. I also have kind of a stock delay and reverb. At some point I'll have to think about if that's what I want to keep. I will probably change up this delay and reverb, but for now, I'll just keep it in place. So I'm pretty happy with kind of where the atmosphere is starting to go. It's always going to be tweaked. And for now, I think I'm just going to end it off. I did what I wanted to do. I got that transition in place. I got my drums to a better groove. And I established that kind of groove with the top bass. And I'm starting to think about atmosphere. I wanted to keep this a shorter session anyway. And the next session is really when I'm going to start to take off with new patterns again. So I'll probably insert, a few more drum patterns. I'll start to think about that ARP that's in place and the melody. And that's when the song will start to take off a little bit more. I wanted to establish a nice foundation, and I have it. There's a lot more work to do, but I wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter. So I'll see you all next time.